Inshallah, today we are beginning from ayah number 118 of Surah Al-Baqarah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقال الذين لا يعلمون لولا يكلمون الله أو تأتينا آية. Those who have no knowledge ask, why does Allah not speak to us, or there has come to us a sign? Why does Allah not speak to us face to face or send us a sign? Like, we need a visual of Allah. The same demand was made by those before them. They all have the same mentality. We have already shown clear signs to those whose faith is firm. What clearer sign, what more of a sign could you possibly want other than the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We have sent you, O Muhammad, with the truth and made you the bearer of good news and warning. Now you will not be called upon to answer about the actions of the companions of the blazing fire. وَلَا تُسْأَلُوا عَنْ أَصْحَابِ الْجَحِيمِ, meaning those who are asking you these unnecessary questions, asking you to bring another miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or bring forth Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala face to face. They are Ashab al-Jahim, they are the companions of the hellfire, and Ya Rasulullah, it is not your job to satisfy them. They will never be satisfied. وَلَنْ تَرْضَ عَنْكَ الْيَهُودُ وَلَا النَّصَارَى, the Jews and the Christians will never be pleased with you until you follow their faith. O Muhammad, tell them, Allah's guidance is the only guidance. إِنَّ هُدَى اللَّهِ هُوَ الْهُدَى. And if after all the knowledge you have received, you still submit to their desires, so now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually in a very firm tone asking Rasulullah that, Ya Rasulullah, even after knowing the truth, even if you, as a Nabi, as a prophet, as a chosen individual, if you end up submitting to the desires of the Jews and Christians and start diluting the deen the way they're asking you to, there shall be no one to protect you or help you from the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those to whom we have given the book and who read it as it is ought to be read, they are the ones who believe in it. As for those who reject it, they are for sure the losers. الَّذِينَ آتَيْنَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ يَتْلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتَهُ. For only those who will be saved are the ones who read the book and give it its haqq. Now, this statement is a very serious statement because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was addressing Rasulullah also in a very severe warning. If Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being warned that if you, Rasulullah, if you waver as well from the kitab, then you will also not find a helper. So what kind of wishful thinking are the Muslimin relying on? What kind of wishful thinking are the people are relying on, that we don't read the kitab, we don't practice it, we have no idea what's in the kitab, and we have this wishful thinking that we're all going to Jannah and we're going to have the shifa of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are conditions for these things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is clearly outlining in this ayah, الَّذِينَ آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابَ يَتْلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ. Those to whom we have given the book, those who recite it with its haqqa tilawa. What is the haqq of tilawa? The haqq of tilawa is the reciting it in a beautiful way. That's one thing. Number two, understanding it. And there's tartil, meaning you are consistent in it. And then once you understand it, there's implementation on it. I mean, there are rights of the Quran on us that we have to fulfill. أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ. Those are the ones who believe in it. As for those who reject it, meaning who don't read it, who don't bother learning it, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. So indeed, they are the ones who are for sure losers. O children of Israel, remember the special favor which I bestowed upon you, that I exalted you above all the nations. Meaning I chose you, I gave you honor, I selected you to preach my deen, I selected you to expand my deen over all nations, because with honor comes responsibility. I mean, the honor does not come without responsibility. The higher the honor you have, the bigger the responsibility you have. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, guard yourself against the day when one soul shall not help another, Which is that day? The day of Qiyamah, Yawm al-Qiyamah. No one will be able to assist anyone that day. No ransom shall be taken. No compensation for your sins can be paid. You cannot pay your way out. No intercession shall profit anyone, and no help shall be given. Remember when Ibrahim alayhi salam was tested by his Rabb. With certain commands, he fulfilled them. He always fulfilled the commands that he was given. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him as a reward for his consistent obedience, surely, O Ibrahim, I will make you the leader of the mankind. And it is true. Ibrahim alayhi salam is considered the father of all Abrahamic religions, right? That's why we call them Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises him that surely I will make you the leader of mankind. So naturally, as a parent, whenever we are given something, we think of our children, right? It's a natural instinct. So the moment Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Ibrahim that you're going to be a leader, Ibrahim's first instinct was, what about my children? So Ibrahim asked, what about my offspring? What about my children? What about my progeny? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replied, قَالَ لَا يَنَالُ أَحْدِ الظَّالِمِينَ. My pledge will not apply to the evildoers. Meaning, if your children, offsprings, are not going to follow the commandments and not going to give the haqq of the tilawah, are not going to fulfill the covenant, just because they are your children, I am not going to forgive them for their evil. What does that tell us? Our ancestors' good things cannot save us. Our ancestors' good deeds are with them. All of us have to bear our own burden. All of us have to sow our own seeds of good deeds. We cannot just say, oh, my ancestors were so pious, my grandpa was so pious, my grandma used to pray tahajjud, and I'm okay. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what we have to do, but yeah, there's deen in my home. Yeah, that's not going to benefit. I mean, what more clarity do we need besides these ayat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here? Remember when we made the house, the Kaaba, a center and sanctuary for mankind, saying, we entrusted Ibrahim and Ismail to cleanse our house for those who walk around it, who meditate in it, and who kneel and prostrate in prayers. Remember when Ibrahim said, رب اجعل هذا بلدا آمنا وارزق أهله من الثمرات من آمن منهم بالله واليوم الآخر. My Rabb, Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was building the foundation of Kaaba with Ismail alayhi salam, he made this dua because when he was doing so, Mecca was empty. It was a barren land. It was just a desert. There was nobody there, nothing. But he was a visionary. Ibrahim alayhi salam was a visionary man, a man of vision. So he made this dua and he had so much hope with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that while he's building this Kaaba and he's seeing the land, it's barren, there's nothing that can grow there, he did not lose hope. He did not lose hope in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He makes the dua, my Rabb, make this Mecca a secure town and provide its people with plenty of food from fruits, those of them who believe in Allah and the last day. He answered, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered, as for those who do not, I shall also provide for them in this life. Meaning, Ibrahim made this dua that, oh Allah, only give food to those who believe in you and the last day. But the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so vast that he replied to Ibrahim by saying that, no, I will give food to everyone whether they believe in me or not. I shall also provide for them in this life, but in the hereafter, in Yawm al-Qiyamah, I shall drag them to the torture of hellfire, and it is an evil destination indeed. Who will he drag them there? For those who did not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember when Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam raised the foundations of the house, which house? The Kaaba, and prayed, accept this from us. رَبَّنَا وَجَعَلْنَا مُسْلِمَيْنِ لَكَ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِنَا أُمَّةً مُسْلِمَةً لَكَ وَأَرِنَا مَنَاسِكَنَا وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ. This is a beautiful dua taught to us by Ibrahim alayhi salam while they are working. Guess what they are doing? They're building Kaaba. The highest honor you could have, there's ajr in even cleaning the Kaaba, but they're building the foundations of the Kaaba. They're probably going to get the ajr of every single tawaf, every single ibadah, every single prayer that has been made near Kaaba. But what is Ibrahim and Ismail alayhi salam concerned about? They are not feeling arrogant. They're not feeling proud. Oh, look at the honor that God gave me. Look, I'm the one who laid the foundation of Kaaba. Look, I am a special being. No, so much humility, so much humbleness that he says, he makes this dua while laying the foundation. Oh, Ya Rabbi, accept this from us. Please, Ya Rabbi, accept this little effort from us. Don't discard it. Innaka anta sami'ul alim. You are the one who hears and all and knows all. O Arab. Then he makes further dua. O Arab, make us both Muslims, meaning make me and my son submissive to you. And it's interesting, he says Muslimin. He doesn't say make me Yahud, make me Nasara. He says make me submissive to you. Whatever label that is, make me submissive to you. And make our descendants, meaning make my progeny, make my children, make my legacy, make anyone who is coming from my generation, and make us all submissive to you. And make us a nation that will be Muslim. Make my entire progeny a nation of Muslims. And then he continues. He doesn't stop there. He says, show us the rites of worship, meaning show us the right way to worship you, Ya Rabbi, and accept our repentance. He's not committing a sin. He's doing the highest form of worship, yet he's asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for istighfar, for repentance. Show us our rights of worship and accept our repentance. Surely you are the acceptor of repentance, the merciful. And then he makes another dua. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that I am the answer to the dua of our father Ibrahim alayhi salam. Because Ibrahim alayhi salam asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send down a prophet in his progeny. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes out from the line of Ismail alayhi salam. So the progeny of Ibrahim alayhi salam is and then his dua, through his dua, the result was Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he says this: "Rabbana wab'as fihim rasulun minhum yatlu alayhim ayatika wa yu'allimuhum al-kitaba wal-hikma wa yuzakkihim innaka antal azizul hakim." O our Rabb, appoint from among them a rasul. Send a rasul to my progeny, who shall recite to them your revelations, who will do tilawa of the kitab and teach them the book. He will not just recite, he will teach them what's in it. Recitation alone is not enough. Understanding the kitab is a must. So send them a nabi, send them a rasul who will teach them the wisdom, and who will purify them, who will do their tazkiyah. Surely you are the Almighty and the Wise. What we learn from this and this dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam, this is, I think, anybody who is a parent here, this is a great lesson for us. The kind of du'as we should be making for our children. We are so concerned about the worldly education, worldly degrees, and the kind of school they want to go into, but we forget to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a mentor for them, or for a friend for them that will guide them spiritually to the deen. Everybody needs a spiritual leader, a spiritual teacher, okay? And, you know, Ibrahim alayhi salam, like a true father figure, first builds the foundation of a house, like any father would. Then what he does, he makes the dua that now he's concerned about the livelihood of the children. So he makes the dua for the food and the fruits. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts it. And then he makes the dua for their guidance and their hidayah, and asks Allah to teach us, to teach them the rights of the worship. He's concerned who's going to do tarbiyah. We need curriculum, we need books, we need some kind of thing. Ya Rabbi, teach us. And then he's asking for guidance. And then he says, give us a teacher. Give my progeny a teacher. So teachers make or break our children. Okay, that is a reality. Finding a good teacher is a blessing of Allah wa ta'ala. So we should always be making this dua that, Ya Rabbi, help me find a teacher in this dunya who will help me understand your kitab, okay, who will do my tazkiyah. So Sahaba and from the Salaf, we know they all used to make this dua for finding a teacher who would direct them rightfully to the Quran, inshallah ta'ala. And we need to make this dua for ourselves, and we need to also make this dua for our children. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, who but a foolish man would renounce the faith of Ibrahim? After knowing this history of Ibrahim alayhi salam and claiming ownership to Ibrahim alayhi salam, because both Jews and the Christians claim association with Ibrahim alayhi salam. Like I said, everybody considers him the father figure, right? So then knowing this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, who but a foolish man would renounce the faith of Ibrahim? We chose him in this worldly life. We chose him. He was amongst amongst the Salihin, and he will be amongst the righteous. When his Rabb asked him, why was Ibrahim chosen? The question becomes, when does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose anyone for his work? Who gets this honor? What is the criteria for this? The answer is in this next ayah. Is qala lahu rabbuhu. When his Rabb asked him, aslim, submit. Submit. Qala, he said, aslamtu li rabbil alameen. I have submitted to the Lord of the worlds. No hesitation. And we know that Ibrahim alayhi salam was given a very difficult task. He was given a dream to sacrifice his son, and without any hesitation, he went ahead. Right? So he was amongst the most obedient servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what we learn from Ibrahim alayhi salam. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, aslim, submit, we don't ask why. What's the logic? What's the scientific reasoning behind this? What is the wisdom behind this? We start looking for scientific reasonings to convince ourselves that the pig is haram because it's a bad animal, it's impure. No, pig is haram, it's haram. That's the first reasoning. And hijab is for un-Muslims. So then people have come up with a lot of logics for this. They give the example of covered candies and uncovered candies and blah, blah, blah. You know what? No, the simple answer is, it is the command of Allah. Allah has commanded us to do so. So we submit. We submit. Yes, every command of Allah, everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us to do, there's khair in it. It is for our own benefit. We see the khair of the obedience even in this dunya, and obviously the khair of that obedience in akhirah is without count. But the attitude of a true believer, the chosen one, is إِذْ قَالَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ أَسْلِمْ. When your Rabb tells you to submit, you submit. You do not ask questions. You do not come up with excuses. You do not delay it. You do it right there and then, because you have firm belief that whatever comes from my Rabb is the ultimate truth. This was the legacy that Ibrahim a.s. left to his sons, and so did Yaqub when he said, "O my sons, Allah has chosen for you this deen, a way of life, therefore die not unless you are Muslims." So Ibrahim a.s. had two sons, right? Yaqub and Ismail. Ismail, through the progeny of Ismail, we get Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yaqub a.s. had 12 sons, right? And from those 12, we got the 12 tribes of Bani Israel. So even Yaqub alayhi salam, when he was on his deathbed, what was his concern? Oh, my sons, what are you going to do when I die? Do not die unless in the state of Muslims. What kind of wasiyah, what kind of advice do we leave for our children when we're on deathbed? That property, you know what, that's under you. I'm concerned I did not make that many houses for my children. Look at the economy today. We should have invested. We should have invested. We should have done this. These are our worries. This is not the worry of the Anbiya. This is not the worry of the Rasul. This is not the worries of the chosen people. The chosen people are concerned, who are my children going to worship when I die? What path are they going to follow? What investment have I done in the Islamic education in today's time that can secure my progeny, that they will continue to be immersed amongst the good crowd? What have I done besides building my own castles? So we learn a great lesson for our own legacy in this ayah. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, were you present when death approached Yaqub alayhi salam? He asked his sons, who will you worship after me? They replied, We will worship the same one God who is your Rabb and the Rabb of your forefathers, Ibrahim, Ismail, and Ishaq. And to him we all submit as Muslims. They were a people that have passed away. They shall reap the benefits of their good deeds, and you will not be questioned about what they did. Meaning, people tend to claim that our ancestors were very pious, so they don't want to do anything good now, or they keep fighting about the virtues of the ancestor. Who is better? Is Ibrahim better? Is Ishaq better? Is Ismail better? No, they passed away. They did their good share. Now it's your turn. You will not be asked questions about their amal. You have to figure out your own amal salih. The Jews and Christians say, you will be guided. You be Jews or Christian. They say that become Jew and Christian, and that is the only way for guidance for you. O Muhammad, say, by no means we follow the faith of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the upright one. Meaning we're not going to call ourselves Jews and Christians. We're not going to follow your deen. We follow the deen of Ibrahim alayhi salam, who was upright, who was Hanif, who was the follower of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who was submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By no means we follow the faith of Ibrahim, the upright one, and he was not one of the mushrikeen. He did not worship anyone besides Allah. This is who we will worship. Say we believe in Allah and that which is revealed to us, and that what was revealed to Ibrahim alayhi salam, Ismail alayhi salam, Ishaq alayhi salam, and Yaqub alayhi salam, and their descendants, and that which was given to Musa alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, and other prophets from their Rabb. Meaning we are the followers of the prophets. Line by line, all the prophets said the same statement, that worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. We do not discriminate between any one of them. Any of the prophets, we do not discriminate between them. And to him, Allah, we have surrendered ourselves in Islam. So if they believe like you have believed, they shall be rightly guided. If they reject it, they will surely fall into dissension, divide into different factions. Allah will be your sufficient defender against them, and he hears and knows everything. Sibghat Allah. Adopt the color of Allah. Adopt the religion of Allah. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ مِنَ اللَّهِ صِبْغًا. And who is better than Allah in ordaining religion? وَنَحْنُ لَهُ عَابِدُونَ. And to him do we worship. Stop this bickering. Stop this fighting of following this person and that person. Connect to the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What he has ordained is the best. وَنَحْنُ لَهُ عَابِدُونَ. And O Allah, to you do we all worship. Say, O Muhammad, قُلْ أَتُحَاجُونَنَا فِي اللَّهِ وَهُوَ رَبُّنَا وَرَبُّكُمْ. Say, O Muhammad, would you dispute with us concerning Allah, who is our Rabb and your Rabb as well? Meaning, people who are disputing to you about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, O Muhammad, respond to them. You want to dispute with us concerning Allah, who is our Rabb and your Rabb as well? We shall be accountable to him for our deeds. We're going to answer Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala our deeds. And for you, you have to answer Allah for your deeds. We know that we are completely devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you claim that Ibrahim, Ismail, Ishaq, and Yaqub and their descendants were all Jews or Christians? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing the Jews and the Christians here. Are you claiming that all of these pious predecessors, all of these prophets of mine, are you claiming that they were Jews and the Christians? Say, are you more knowledgeable than Allah? Do you have more knowledge than Allah? Who is more unjust than the one who hides the testimony received from Allah? I mean, you guys are hiding all of this information in your Torah. You are concealing this information. So you are extremely unjust with the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So who is more unjust than the one who hides the testimony received from Allah? Allah is not unaware of what you do. وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. This line, وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ, needs to be highlighted. Allah is not unaware of anything that anyone does. Any lie that any non-Muslim would put on Muslims, any kind of blame that they put on Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, any kind of conspiracy that they come up with to defame the Muslims, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. And then this ayah can be used, we can understand it for our daily life as well. Anything that we do, good or bad, Allah is not ghafil. Any harm that somebody does to us, Allah is not ghafil. So this ayah at the same time acts as a warning for us that Allah is not unaware of what we do. And at the same time, it acts as a bandage for our wounds. When somebody harms us, it's like Allah is saying, I am not unaware of what is happening. I know it all. I am keeping a record of it. That was a nation which has already passed away, meaning the nations of these prophets have already passed away. They're responsible for what they did, and you are responsible for what you do. You shall not be questioned about their deeds. Do not dispute about the people of the past. It will get you nowhere. And if this ayah was, I would say, if this ayah is taught in schools, and if we were to just learn Surah Al-Baqarah, I think that would minimize a lot of the division within the Muslim community. Because this is where majority, I mean, one of the two major groups in the Muslim community are Sunni and Shias. And the major dispute is on what? On the past. The dispute is where? In the past. Okay? And because of the dispute in the past, the rivalry continues to grow, and we have these staunch two groups now that have gone really severe in enmity, and the non-Muslims take advantage of that. Right? Whenever there is going to be any differences between Muslims, anybody who's the enemy of Islam likes to take advantage of it. But I feel like if this ayah is taught to the Muslims as part of their curriculum in schools from day one, and we all understand Surah Al-Baqarah to its core, we will truly get it that there is no point discussing the good deeds or the bad deeds, the good or the bad of the people in the past. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, we should highlight this ayah again. This should be one of the gems for the surah. Tilka ummatun qad khalat. This is a nation which has passed on. It will have the consequence of what it earned. Meaning whether they did good, Allah will give them good. And you will have what you have earned. Meaning your consequences, your actions are not dependent on what they chose. You have to choose the path of Allah. You have to choose your own good deeds. In this dunya, you are responsible for your own actions. You shall not be questioned about their deeds. وَلَا تُسْأَلُونَ أَمَّا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. You will not be questioned about what they did. So why are you fighting about it? Why are you disputing about it? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the foolish will ask, سَيَقُولُ السُّفَهَاءُ مِنَ النَّاسِ. The foolish will ask, why did they turn away from Qibla, the direction in prayer towards which they used to face? O Muhammad, say, قُلِ اللَّهِ الْمَشْرِقُ وَالْمَغْرِبُ. To Allah belongs the east and the west. He guides whom He wills to a straight path. Now, the background of these verses is that when Rasulullah ﷺ migrated to Medina, the first 16 or 17 months, they were facing Baytul Maqdis in Palestine, Baytul Maqdis in Jerusalem, at that time, which was the same Qibla of the Jews and the Christians. And Muslims were praying facing that. But Rasulullah ﷺ was aware that eventually the Qibla will change to Kaaba. And he was waiting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reveal the verses regarding it. And when the verses did come, it created a chaos within the community. The Jews and the Christians started mocking them that, oh, first you were on our Qibla, now you have changed your Qibla. What kind of deen it is? Make up your mind. Hello? Who do you want to follow? So they started, mocking them. Then within the Muslims, a little bit of anger and resentment and doubt started to coming up, that people were like, what is this? So when we worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facing Baitul Maqdis, were our prayers accepted? Are the prayers going to be accepted now? So there was a bit of confusion, except amongst a few true believers whose motto is what? That if Allah says submit, I submit. If Allah tells me to turn this way, I turn this way. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells me to turn the other way, I turn the other way. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about the semantics. The main goal is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in its entirety. So having this background in mind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals the sentiment and the chaos of the Muslim community and the people who were against Islam in these ayat. The foolish will ask, why did they turn away from the Qibla, the direction in prayer, towards which they used to face? O Muhammad, say, Lillahi al-mashriqi wal-maghrib. East and west belongs to Allah. Yahdi man yasha'u ila siratin mustaqim. If he's telling you to face in one direction now, so what? It belongs to him. If he tells you to face a different direction, so what? You do it. It belongs to him. Right? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we have made you a moderate ummah so that you may testify against mankind, that your own Rasul may and that your own Rasul may testify against you. We decreed your former Qibla only to distinguish those who are the real followers of the Rasul from those who would turn away from the faith. Meaning the change of the Qibla was a test for us to see whether you will do ittiba of the Rasul or not, whether you will obey the Rasul or not, or will you fall into disputes amongst yourselves. It was indeed a hard test. وَإِنْ كَانَتْ لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الَّذِينَ هَدَى اللَّهُ. It was indeed a hard test except for those whom Allah had guided. Allah does not want to make your faith fruitless. وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُضِيعَ إِيمَانَكُمْ. Don't worry about the previous prayers that you prayed in front of Baitul Maqdis. Allah does not want to make your faith fruitless. Allah is compassionate and merciful to mankind. Those prayers are also accepted because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ra'ufur Rahim. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues and says, O Muhammad, many a time we have noticed you turning your face towards heaven. Many a times we have seen you longing for the change of the Qibla, that you wanted to pray in front of Kaaba, facing Kaaba. We shall make you turn towards a Qibla that will please you. Turn your face during Salah towards Al-Masjid Al-Haram. Wherever you are, turn your face in that direction. Surely those who were given the book know that it is the truth from their Rabb. Allah is not unaware of what they do. وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا يَعْمَلُونَ. Again, this ayah comes up. That Allah is not unaware of who is creating trouble and who is honest, who is really struggling in the deen, and who is just there to create mischief. Allah is not unaware of this. Then, even if you give every proof to the people of the book, meaning even whatever they ask you for, you give them every proof to the people of the book, they will not accept your Qibla, nor will you accept theirs. Meaning, we're not going to accept their Qibla just because they're offended. We're not going to follow their deen just because they're offended now. Let them be offended. Just like they're not going to follow your Qibla, even though it is the truth, and you bring them the proof. Okay? If after all the knowledge you have been given, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is again warning Rasulullah. Look at the shidda in the words. If after all the knowledge you have been given, you submit to their desires, to the desires of the Jews and the Christians, then surely you will be among the wrongdoers. What does that tell us? We are not to follow the way of non-Muslims, no matter how pleasing it is. You have to understand, non-Muslims were a bigger number when these ayat were being revealed, and their Qibla was the most popular one. So in today's time, how does this apply? We are so drawn to the lifestyles and to the ceremonies of the non-Muslims. When Christmas comes, we are so keen on copying whatever they're doing. We start putting up Christmas trees in our homes, as if we have this need to get validated by them, as if we are so worthless beings that we need to copy and mimic them in every possible way so that we will feel some kind of worth in our beings. That is how much we have devalued ourselves, because we want them to be happy with us. We want them to be pleased with us. So let's dilute. And today's time, what are we doing? Around Eid, we have come up with decor that resembles the Christmas tree for the moon. So we have to really evaluate ourselves, especially when we're reading these ayat, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala extremely dislikes this. A Muslim has his own identity. We do not need to borrow the ceremonies and the rituals of not Muslims to feel fit in the society. We will never fit in the society. You were not meant to fit in the society. We were meant to stand out. We are meant to be leaders. We are meant to lead, and they are meant to follow. But what have we become? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I have made you an ummatan wasat. I made you an ummah of leader to establish my deen. Here you are leaving your own deen because you don't read the kitab. And when you don't have your own values, when you don't have your own brand, then we need to borrow other brand labels to give value to ourselves. Because we have not given the value to our own deen. So we have abandoned it. So now we are following any popular trend. And we are so needy of approval. Oh my God. So needy of approval from non-Muslims. If a non-Muslim visits our mosques, okay, we go gaga over them. And then the same person would be spewing hate against Muslims. The same person would not dare call ceasefire on our Muslim brothers and sisters that are dying. But we're going gaga. Oh my God, he visited the mosque. So let us share into their celebrations as well. No, there's a lot of animosity. And even today's time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed the true faces of hypocrisy. That they preach all this humanity to the people, but they are the most inhumane people ever. I think this is completely evident in today's time. It was hidden for a long time. We were deceived, but through the issue of Gaza and through what's happening in Muslim world, it is quite evident that we are different and they do not like us and they will never share anything. So why are we so needy like beggars in front of them? Where is our spine? We're spineless Muslims in today's time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that no, you will not follow their qibla. And they will not follow your qibla. Our qiblas are different. Our orientations are different. Our purpose of life is different. We are different. So stand out, be different. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, those to whom we have given the book, Jews and Christians, recognize this fact as they recognize their own sons, meaning they recognize that this kitab is haqq as much as they recognize their own sons. The way we recognize our own blood, that's how they recognize how true Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is. And that's how much they recognize how true this kitab is. But out of their own arrogance, they don't accept. Nevertheless, a group of them deliberately conceal the truth. They deliberately conceal the truth. The truth is from your Rabb. The truth is from your Rabb. Al-haqqu min rabbik. Therefore, you should never be amongst those who doubt. Never doubt that you are not on the right path. Because the truth is from your Rabb. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, everyone has a direction. In this life, in this world, everyone has a direction that they follow. Everyone has a leader that they like to follow. Everyone has an inspiration, a celebrity figure, or somebody they look up to. Everyone has a direction towards which one turns. Therefore, copy one another in good deeds. You want to copy anyone? Copy those who do good deeds. And here we are, hung over celebrity culture. Every new trend, again, flat out, we're like, oh yeah, we'll follow. Like a thirsty dog. We cling on to every new trend that comes up. Anybody who becomes famous on social media, any new thing that they do, we want to do that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do you want to compete? You want to copy someone? Because it's your nature to copy people? Guess who you're going to copy? فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. Copy each other. Compete with each other. أَيْنَمَا تَكُونُوا يَأْتِ بِكُمُ اللَّهُ جَمِيعًا. Wherever you will be, Allah will bring you forth all together. Whoever you copy, wherever you live, whatever your priorities in life are, guess what? All of you all together are going to come in front of me. Inna Allah ala kulli shayin qadir. Indeed, Allah is over all things competent. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ومن حيث خرجت فولي وجهك شطر المسجد الحرام وإنه للحق من ربك وما الله بغافل عما تعملون. Again, this ayah is getting repeated. وما الله بغافل عما تعملون. From wherever you come forth, turn your face. Wherever you are, turn your face towards Al-Masjid al-Haram. This is indeed the truth from your Rabb. Allah is not unaware of what you do. We're seeing a consistent theme here. وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. Again, from wherever you come forth, turn your face. This ayah has a repetition here. Turn your face during Salah towards Al-Masjid al-Haram. And wherever you are, face towards it so that people will not have any argument against you except those amongst them who are wrongdoers. Why so much emphasis on turning our face towards Qibla for Salah? It is a symbol of unity. Kaaba is a symbol. It's symbolic of our unity. And look at us in our disunity. Because we lost the purpose of why we were asked to face Qibla. Every 5 prayers we face towards us to reorient our life's direction. This is the end. This is the purpose. So there's repetition for this hukm in the Quran. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, while you orient your life in the direction of Masjid al-Haram, while you orient your life in the direction of the command of Allah, guess what? People are gonna hate on you. So what should you do? فَلَا تَخْشَوْهُمْ. Do not fear them. Do not fear people. Do not fear what they have to say. وَخْشَوْنِي. Only fear me. Wallahi, again, I would like you guys to highlight this portion of the ayah. فَلَا تَخْشَوْهُمْ وَخْشَوْنِي. Do not fear them, only fear me. You know, we have this problem. What will people say? Within our culture, we have this problem. So a lot of us stay away from doing the halal and indulge in haram in our celebrations, in our family dynamics. Why? Oh, what will my aunt say? What will my uncle say? What will this say? What will that say? If I put on my hijab, what will my friends say? I'm not going to look that pretty. If I pray outside on the road, oh my God, so many cars passing by. What are they going to say? What are they going to say? Let them say. Why are you afraid? فَلَا تَخْشَوْهُمْ. Allah is saying, do not be afraid of them. وَخْشَوْنِي. You should fear me. Why are you not thinking, what will Allah say? Why is your question not this? What will Allah say? So let's change our question that we ask ourselves. Before you intend on doing anything, ask ourselves, what will my Rabb say? What will I answer him for this choice that I'm making in my life? Would my Rabb be happy with me or will he be upset with me? How will I answer him when he'll make me stand on Yawm al-Qiyamah and ask me, why did you not follow my command? Why were you reluctant on praying that day? Why did you not go out of the party and make sure you prayed on time? Why did you not show your identity as a Muslim? What held you back? And what will be our answer? Oh, Ya Rabbi, I was afraid of people. Why did you not speak out for the oppressed? Why did you not stand up for the rights of those who were being crushed? Why did you not speak and tweet? You tweeted so many other things. You put on social media so many likes and dislikes. Where was your opinion about the oppression that was happening? Why were you quiet then? What will we say? Oh, Ya Rabbi, I was afraid that I might lose my job. But the risk comes from Allah. So you were afraid of my creation? You were afraid for the ones who I provide and not the provider? فَلَا تَخْشَوْهُمْ فَلَا تَخْشَوْهُمْ. And do not fear them. وَخْشَوْنِي. And fear me. وَلِأُتِمَّ نِعْمَتِي عَلَيْكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ. And fear me so that I may complete my favor upon you. If you get over your fear of people, guess what I'm going to do? I will bless you with my favors. I will strengthen you. وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ. So you may be guided. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we sent amongst you a Rasul for your own, who recites to you our revelations, sanctifies you, teaches you the book and wisdom, and teaches you that which you did not know. Therefore remember me, and I will remember you. فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ. We sent a Rasul to you so that you may understand the Kitab. And here you are leaving the sunnah of your Rasul because you're afraid of what people will say. And with Allah saying, guess what? فَاذْكُرُونِي. You remember me? أَذْكُرْكُمْ. I will remember you. وَاشْكُرُوا You will do my shukr. وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. And do not disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a lesson for us in here. The relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a two-way relationship. We have to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first for Him to remember us. He will not stop our rizq, because that is something we already learned, that He's promised to provide for the believers and the non-believers, for the obedient and the disobedient. But His blessing, His rahmah will be taken away from us. So, highlight this ayah for yourselves. فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ وَاشْكُرُوا لِي وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الصَّابِرِينَ. You find it difficult? You're finding it difficult to survive in this world? Where there's too much pressure on you? You're finding it difficult to get out of the fear of the people? Okay, what should you do? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, or those who have believed. Ista'inu bis-sabri was-salah. Seek help through patience and salah. These are the medicines, the vitamins you need to stand up to do my dhikr in public and to do my dhikr in secret. This is the medicine, the strength, the shot, the energy shot you need, salah and sabr, to proclaim what is right. This is the medicine that will give you strength to get rid of the fear of the people. Inna Allaha ma'a sabirin. Indeed, Allah is amongst the sabirin. ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون. Do not say about those who are slain in the cause of Allah, martyrs, that they are dead. Nay, they are alive, but you do not perceive it. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ. Looking at the theme of this ayah, the moment you will change your direction. Remember, what was the preface of this? The direction of Qibla was being changed. The Muslims were being reoriented to their purpose of life. The moment that will happen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test us. He will test to see whether we are truly worthy of His blessings, of His rahmah, or whether we're truly worthy of the Jannah that He has stored for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. We shall surely test your steadfastness. We will test how true you are in your claim with fear and famine, and with lots of property, life and produce. Give good news to those who endure it with patience. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. The test of fear will come. Fear of losing people. Fear of losing social status. Right? Hunger. Fear of losing your job. وَنَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ. Maybe if you follow the deen, you can't do riba, you can't build your empire on the haram. So naqs min al-amwal, your mal will reduce apparently. Wa anfusihim wathamarat wa bashir as-sabirin. And with the loss of property, life, and produce, give good news to those who endure with patience, who then afflicted with calamity say, alladhina iza asabatuhum musiba. When I inflict them with a musibah, when I put a musibah on them to test how they're going to do, what they're going to do, what do they say? قَالُوا إِنَّ لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّ إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Indeed, we belong to Allah and to Him we shall return. Such are the people on whom there are blessings and mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they are the ones that are rightly guided. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those who will be rightly guided. Now from here on, some of the injunctions for Hajj will come. Okay, so inshallah ta'ala we'll quickly go over these. Behold, Safa and Marwa, two hills in Al-Masjid al-Haram, are among the symbols of Allah. They are amongst the symbols of Allah. So anyone who performs Hajj or Umrah to the house, there is no blame if one gets around between them. And anyone who does good voluntarily should know that surely Allah is appreciative and all-knower. Those who conceal the clear proofs and the guidance, those who conceal the clear proofs and the guidance that we have revealed after we have made it clear in the book for mankind will have Allah's curse, and that for those who are entitled to curse, except those who repent, reform, and let the truth be known, I will accept their repentance, for I am the receiver of repentance, the merciful. Surely those who are unbelievers and die while they are unbelievers, they are the ones on whom is the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning if you die in the state of kufr, Allah's curse is upon you. There is no coming back. They are the ones on whom is the curse of Allah, the angels and all mankind. They will live in it forever. خالدين فيها. لا يخفف عنهم العذاب ولا هم ينظرون. And the punishment will not be lightened, nor shall they be given any kind of respite, any kind of relief. وإلهكم إله واحد. Oh, people, your ilah is only one ilah. Your God is one God. There is none worthy of worship except Him. La ilaha illa huwa ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. He's ar-Rahman and ar-Rahim. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala further gives us an imagery of the world. How can we deny in this ilah? A very beautiful ayat. These ayat should also be highlighted for us. إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ وَالْفُلْكِ الَّتِي تَجْرِي فِي الْبَحْرِ. Surely in the creations of the heavens and the earth, in the alternation of the night and the day, in the sailing of the ships through the ocean for the profit of mankind, in the rain which Allah sends down from the skies, with which He revives the earth after its death, and spreads in it all kinds of animals, in the change of the winds and the clouds between the sky and the earth that are made subservient, there are signs for rational people. Anyone who's a rational person, with a mind, with aql, when they will observe the nature, they will attribute it to the work of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will attribute it to the design of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I am the one who does all of this for them. But within the people, there's a group of people. What do? They don't love me enough. The kind of love they were supposed to give me, they give it to others. And the ayah is amazing. And again, if we were to teach this ayah to our children, and if our parents had taught it to us, and the generations before that had made Quran a priority, made the tilawah and the understanding of the Quran a priority, a lot of the people would stay away from shirk. A lot of people will be saved from shirk. But people don't open the Quran to see what's in there. Now this ayah is very, very important. And if you know anybody who is indulged in shirk, in your family and friends, and teach them this ayah, show them this ayah of the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, from the mankind there are some who take for worship other deities besides Allah. Among the people, they love them as they should love Allah. يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ. They love these people, these personalities, and these deities, these idols. I mean, shirk is not limited to you worshiping an idol. Shirk is you upholding a person at the level of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So they love them as they should love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. But for those who believe, أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. Who do they love? Their love is intense for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't love anybody else. The love for Allah is supreme. Supreme. If those who are unjust could visualize people who love other beings and personalities more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're doing injustice to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by taking away His right. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, if those who are unjust could visualize the day of judgment, when they will see their punishment, they would come to know for sure that all power belongs to Allah and that Allah is stern in retribution. The people that they're following in this dunya, they would run away from them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Istabara al-lazina. On that day, these leaders who were being followed, meaning the very celebrities, the very people, the very ulama, the very family members, the elders, or anybody who's dictating our life, anybody who we take as a role model, anybody who we want to associate with. It could be friends. It could be just friends we're very, very impressed with. Or even society we want to mimic and copy because we want to earn their favor. That is your leader. Anybody you are following consciously and unconsciously becomes your leader. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, on that day, when they will see the punishment for loving someone more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Then on that day, these leaders who were being followed, when faced with the punishment, would renounce those who followed them, and the bonds which united them will break asunder. Meaning the very followers who say, "Oh, please follow me," very these leaders will be like, "Hey, I did not tell you to follow me. I renounce myself to you. I don't want anything to do with you. Get away from me." And the followers will be looking up to the leaders. "How dare you mislead us? You misled us." So there will be fight and dispute amongst them. The followers will say, then the followers will say, so the leaders will say, "We have nothing to do with you. We did not tell you to follow. You guys were just so clinging to us. It's your fault that you loved us more than Allah. We want nothing to do with you." So the followers then will reply that if it could be possible for us to live again, if Allah gives us life one more time, we would renounce them as they have renounced us today. Meaning, if we were to go back to this dunya, oh, we would never dare follow you. We would never even bother look at you. We wasted our life behind following the popular trends and trying to earn your favor when you are nothing. Thus, Allah will show them the fruits of their deeds. Look at the language here. أَعْمَالُهُمْ حَسَرَاتٍ عَلَيْهِمْ يُرِيهِمُ اللَّهُ أَعْمَالَهُمْ حَسَرَاتٍ عَلَيْهِمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show them their deeds as regrets upon them. They will be regretting. And they will be constantly saying, "Why did we do this? Why did I got pulled into this? Why wasn't I strong enough to keep my direction?" They will sigh with regret and shall not be able to come out of the hellfire. وَمَا هُمْ بِخَارِجِينَ مِنَ النَّارِ. They will not be able to get out of the fire. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us amongst these. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surround us with friends whose influence will be a positive influence in our lives. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those leaders who will be able to lead our children, our progeny, to the right direction, the direction of Qibla, to the direction of Ibrahim alayhi salam, Ismail alayhi salam, Ishaq alayhi salam, Yaqub alayhi salam, and to the direction of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. These are the du'as that we need to make and understand the core message of the Quran. Do not be followers to popular trends. Build your own identity. And Quran builds our identity. We are Muslimin. We should be proud to be Muslim. We should be grateful to be Muslim. We should be we should be making sure that we're upholding the label of a Muslim. That was the label that Ibrahim alayhi salam gave himself. That is the label that Ishaq alayhi salam gave himself. That is the label that all the previous prophets gave themselves. And we should own it. We should wear it. Our every action should depict that we are a Muslim. We don't need any other culture. We don't need any other anyone else's approval. No, this is approved by Allah, stamped by Allah. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after this comes up to, from here on in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give us some injunctions and commandments regarding our life. Many topics will be covered. And Surah Al-Baqarah, as we know, is a surah of a lot of commandments, of do's and don'ts. So from here onwards, we will see those commandments coming to us. O mankind, eat of what is lawful and clean on the earth, and do not follow the footsteps of Shaitan. Surely he is your open enemy. إِنَّمَا يَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالسُّوءِ وَالْفَحْشَاءِ وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. How is he your open enemy? How is Shaitan your open enemy? Because he enjoins you. He only orders you to evil and immorality. He commands you to do evil and to say about Allah what you do not know. So one of the things that Shaitan does, it doesn't just incite us to follow our desires, right? Or to commit the sins. A very important thing is mentioned here. وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُ. He puts doubts in your mind and makes you say things that are not true about Allah. He puts false wishful thinking in your mind about Allah. Either he makes you too relaxed about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he will not punish you, or He makes you too afraid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and takes you to the direction of hopelessness, that there is no refuge for you, so might as well just stay doing sins. And sometimes he puts the kinds of doubts in your mind to make you question the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Which is why every Tom, Dick, and Harry, or every person waking up having a no clue, have something to say about the Quran, have something to say, oh, why do we still have to follow this book? It's 1400 years old. Things need to be changed. Things need to be modernized. No, they don't need to be modernized. Quran is to stay this way till the end of times. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has covered every aspect, every need within this kitab. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اتَّبِعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ. And when it is said to them, follow what Allah has revealed, they say, rather, no, we're not going to follow. بَلْ نَتَّبِعُوا مَا أَلْفَيْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا. We are going to follow what we found our forefathers following on. We're just going to stick to our tradition. Sorry. Even though their forefathers understood nothing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, even though your forefathers were wrong, and nor were they guided, you're just going to blindly keep following it? وَمَثَلُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا كَمَثَلِ الَّذِي. The example of those who disbelieve is like that of one who shouts at what hears nothing, but calls and cries cattle or sheep, deaf, dumb, and blind, so they do not understand. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu kulu min tayyibat. O believers, eat the clean things which we have provided you, and give thanks to Allah if you worship only Him. Now, what are the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has made everything halal for you, like we learned last class. Eat from the tayyib and the pure things He has given you. A few things have been made haram. What are those things? He has forbidden you to eat dead meat, blood, and the flesh of swine, and that on which any name other than Allah has been invoked. But if someone is compelled by absolute necessity, intending neither to sin nor to transgress, incur no sin. Surely Allah is forgiving and merciful. Surely those who conceal any part of the book which Allah has revealed and sell His revelations for a petty price, for a material gain, swallow nothing but fire into their bellies. On the day of resurrection, Allah will neither speak to them nor purify them, and they shall have painful punishment. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from these kinds of people and these attributes. What have these people done? These are the kind of people who barter guidance, who trade guidance for error and forgiveness for punishment. How patient can they be? How patient can they be to reach hellfire? It's a very sarcastic terminology. فَمَا أَصْبَرَهُمْ عَلَى النَّارِ. How patient are they going to be on fire? They're trading the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're selling their soul to get appreciation from the West. They're selling their souls to get approval from the people who are against Islam. And they think that they're going to have maghfirah? No. How are they going to be patient with hellfire? ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ اللَّهُ نَزَّلَ الْكِتَابُ بِالْحَقِّ. Their doom is because Allah has revealed the book with the truth. Surely those who argue about the book, the Quran, are in extreme divergence. Unfortunately, this is the state of Muslim Ummah today. Allah revealed the book for guidance, and after getting the book, we have fallen into ikhtilaf. People are not following the basic faraid, right? The basic faraid, they're not doing salah, they're not doing the basic things. But they're fighting about Rafa Yadain, this person did this person did that, you're from this school of thought, you're from this school of thought. All this time is spent in bickering and ikhtilaf when the book's purpose is to make us a unified community. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, then He clarifies to us that stop fighting on this nitty-gritty, stop bickering on these minute little things. And He says, لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. Righteousness is not whether you turn your face towards east or west, but righteousness is to believe in Allah, the last day, the angels, the books, and the prophets. The righteousness is to spend wealth in spite of your love for it. وَآتَ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ. Righteousness is what? You spending out of what you love, not what you hate. not the discarded stuff. What you love is what you spend on who? On who? On the relatives you don't like. The wil qurba wal yatama wal masakin. On relatives, orphans, helpless, needy travelers, those who ask for, and on the freeing of captives. What else is righteousness? وَأَقَامَ الصَّلَاةِ, and to establish salah, to pay zakah, وَالْمُوفُونَ بِعَهْدِهِمْ إِذَا عَاهَدُوا, to fulfill promises when made, to be steadfast in poverty, hardship, and at the time of war, to do sabr, وَصَابِرِينَ فِي الْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَحِينَ الْبَأْسِ. Those are the ones who are truthful, and those are the ones who are the pious. This is piety. This is taqwa. This ayah is the definition, the guideline, the pointers for righteousness. Highlight this ayah for yourselves. Whenever you see fighting happening on very minute things within the community, don't indulge yourself in it. Because great minds and people with great purposes don't indulge in petty talk. They have a purpose. They have to fulfill that purpose. They have to establish the deen of Allah. There are bigger goals at stake here. And all of these things mentioned here are the big goals that make a strong community. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says further, we get the commandments about qisas. Qisas is the retaliation laws, or the revenge law, you can say, when somebody is murdered in Islam. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumul qisasu fil qatla. O believers, retaliation is prescribed for you in the cases of murder. A free man for a free man, a slave for a slave, and a female for a female. But if the killer is pardoned by the brother of the slain, meaning sparing the killer's life by accepting the blood money, then blood money should be demanded with fairness, and payment should be made with gratitude. This is a concession and a mercy from your Rabb. Now whoever exceeds the limits after this shall have a painful punishment. وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاةٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. O men of understanding, there is security of life for you in the law of retaliation, that you may become pious. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues, the will is made obligatory before the death of any one of you who is leaving some property behind, to bequeath it equitably to his parents and relatives. This is the duty incumbent on the righteous. Now the laws of inheritance are mentioned in these ayat. If anyone changes the inheritance after hearing it, the sin of it then is on those who make the change. Allah hears and knows everything. But there is no blame on the one who suspects an error or an injustice on the part of the person who has made a will and brings about a settlement among the parties. Allah is forgiving and the most merciful. Then comes the verses about fasting. Injunctions about fasting. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyamu kama kutiba alal ladina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. O believers, fasting is prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you, so that you may become pious. Ayyaman ma'dudad. Fast the prescribed number of days, except if any of you is ill or on a journey, then fast a similar number of days later. For those who cannot endure it for medical reasons, there is a ransom, the feeding of one poor person for each missed day. Whoever does good, whoever does more good than this voluntarily, it is better for him. Meaning, if you cannot, even after paying fidyah, it's better for you to fast. However, if you truly understand the rationale of fasting, it is better for you to fast. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. It is the month of Ramadan in which the Quran was revealed, a guidance for mankind with clear teachings showing the right way and a criterion of truth and falsehood. Therefore, any one of you who witnesses that month should fast therein. And whoever is ill or on a journey shall fast a similar number of days later on, meaning they should make up their fast later on. Allah intends your well-being and does not want to put you to hardship. He wants you to complete the prescribed period so that you glorify His greatness and render thanks to Him for for giving you guidance. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, while you're fasting, they're fasting for me, and they ask for me, tell my people, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. When my servants question you about me, tell them that I'm very close to them. I hear them. I see them. I'm with them. أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. I answer the prayer of everyone who calls me, who prays to me. Therefore, they should respond to me and believe in me. If I answer their prayers, وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. They should also respond to my commands so that they may be rightly guided. It is made lawful for you to approach your wives during the nights of the fast. They are an apparel for you and you for them. هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنْ. Highlight this part of the ayah as well. What are husband and wives for each other? A covering, a protection. What is a libas? A libas protects you from a libas protects you from heat. A libas protects you from cold. A libas protects you from the extremities of weather. A libas hides the flaws. It adds beauty. This is the role of a spouse in Islam. For both men and women, they have been called each other's libas. They're called each other's protectors, each other's caretakers. They're both supposed to be beautifying each other's character. Allah knows that you were committing dishonesty to your souls, so He has relented towards you and pardoned you. Now you may approach your wives and seek what Allah has ordained for you. Eat and drink until the white thread of dawn appears to you distinct from the black thread of night. Then complete your fast till nightfall. Do not approach your wives during itikaf. Itikaf is a retreat or a seclusion in the mosques for certain periods with intention to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the limits set by Allah. تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ فَلَا تَقْرَبُوهَا. Do not go near them. Do not try breaking the hudud of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. كَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ آيَاتِهِ لِلنَّاسِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ. Thus Allah makes His revelations clear to mankind so that they may become pious. It's interesting that right after the commands of fasting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the rights of people. The purpose of fasting is to bring taqwa in us and to make us God-conscious people. God-conscious people do not take away the rights of people. God-conscious people, or God's chosen people, let's just say, do not oppress other people. Simple as that. And what a beautiful tarbiyah that after Ramadan, while we focus on these ibadah, the purpose of the ibadah is to tame us into an individual who is beneficial towards society, who is mindful of the rights of others. And it's so beautiful that right after the fasting commands, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بَيْنَكُمْ بِالْبَاطِلِ. Do not consume, do not eat up each other's wealth unjustly, nor bribe the judges. وَتُجْلُوا بِهَا إِلَى الْحُكَّامِ. Don't try to get judgment in your favor, and don't try to take away other people's rights in order to misappropriate a part of other people's property sinfully and knowingly. Do not consume other people's wealth. Do not consume other people's lands. Do not cheat. Do not deceive. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the different ibadah and the Hajj. The injunctions about Hajj will become more clear here. They question you about the new moons. Tell them they are to determine the periods of the time for the benefit of mankind and for the Hajj, for the pilgrimage. It is not righteous to enter your houses from the back doors. Righteousness is to fear Allah. وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ مَنِ اتَّقَى وَأْتُوا الْبُيُوتَ مِنْ أَبْوَابِهَا وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. Enter your houses through the proper doors and fear Allah so that you may prosper. What does that mean? I mean, there's more tafsir to this, but I find that in Islam, even the privacy of people within the homes is respected. We're asked to not enter our own homes from the back doors so that we don't startle the people inside the house. Enter by announcing that you're entering your home. Subhanallah al-Azim. Islam takes care of very subtle things as well. Then وَقَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُعْتَدِينَ. Fight in the cause of Allah, those who fight against you, but do not exceed the limits. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like the transgressors. Kill them wherever they confront you, meaning in a battlefield, wherever you are confronted, you confront them as well. Kill them wherever they confront you in combat, and drive them out of the places from which they have driven you. Though killing is bad, creating mischief is worse than killing. Al-fitnatu ashaddu min al-qatl. Highlight this part. Al-fitnatu ashaddu min al-qatl in this ayah. Though killing is bad, creating mischief is worse than killing. Do not fight them within the precincts of Al-Masjid al-Haram unless they attack you there. Meaning, obviously, fighting within Masjid al-Haram is haram. It's a sacred space. But if you're attacked there, then obviously you have to defend, and you can defend over there. But if they attack you, put them to the sword. That is the punishment for such unbelievers. If they cease hostility, then surely Allah is forgiving and Allah is merciful. وَقَاتِلُوهُمْ حَتَّى. Fight against them until there is no more disorder and Allah's supremacy is established. If they desist, if they resist, let there be no hostility except against the oppressors. Meaning, if they continue to resist, they continue to fight, your hostility, your fighting should only be with the ones who are fighting with you, not the civilians, not the innocent. They might be unbelievers, doesn't matter. Your combat, you fight with only the soldiers who are fighting against you. Then it continues about the sacred month. The sacred month in which fighting is prohibited is to be respected if the same is respected by the enemy. Meaning, if the enemy is not respecting the sacred month and continues to fight with you, you're not just going to sit down and say, hey, we can't fight because it's a sacred month. No, you have to defend, even in the sacred month. It's very disliked, but you have to, because now there's no choice. Sacred things too are subject to retaliation. Therefore, if anyone transgresses a prohibition and attacks you, retaliate with the same force. Fear Allah. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Fear Allah and bear in mind that Allah is with the righteous. وَأَنْفِقُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Give generously for the cause of Allah. And do not cast yourselves into destruction by your own hands. Do not hoard your wealth. Do not feel stingy giving in the way of Allah. You have to give in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Establish the deen. Spend on ways the deen can be established. The deen can have strength. وَأَحْسِنُوا. And give with ihsan. Be charitable with ihsan, the best of the best. Inna Allah yuhibbul muhsinin. Allah loves those who do ihsan, who do the acts of worship with the utmost beauty, who give with the utmost beauty. Complete وَأَتِمُّ الْحَجَّ وَالْعُمْرَةَ لِلَّهِ. Complete the Hajj and the Umrah for the sake of Allah. If you're prevented from proceeding, then send such offering for sacrifice as you can afford, and do not shave your head until the offerings have reached their destination. But if any of you is ill or has an ailment in his scalp, which necessitates shaving, he must pay a ransom either by fasting or feeding the poor, or offering a sacrifice. If in peacetime anyone wants to take the advantage of performing Umrah and Hajj together, he should make an offering which he can afford. But if he cannot afford it, he should fast 3 days during the Hajj and 7 days on his return, making 10 days in total. This order is for the one whose household is not in the precincts of Al-Masjid al-Haram. Fear Allah. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. Fear Allah and know that Allah is strict in retribution. Hajj is in the well-known months. One who undertakes to perform it must abstain from a husband-wife relationship, obscene language, and wrangling during Hajj. Meaning, you're going on Hajj, don't fight. How many times are we seeing this recurring theme? That don't bicker with each other. What do we see around Hajj times? People are fighting, bickering. Whatever good you do, Allah knows it. Take necessary provisions with you for the journey. فَإِنْ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى. Meaning, obviously, you're going for Hajj, you need to plan. You need to equip yourself. You need to have proper clothing, proper attire. And in olden times, obviously, they used to carry food with them as well because the journeys would be so long. Nowadays, we don't have that issue. But yes, we are told to prepare for Hajj. But then, amazing ayah here. That prepare, but while you're taking all the necessary provisions, remember, piety, taqwa, is the best of all provisions. Taqwa, وَتَزَوَّدُوا, prepare, فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى. The best preparation that you can do for Hajj is taqwa. Don't forget to take taqwa with you while you pack up for Hajj, while you buy the best ihram, while you buy the best abaya and hijab, while you shop there as well. Great, it's all allowed. Do so. While you book the best flights, don't forget to take taqwa. Don't forget to be mindful of Allah. That's the best luggage you can take with you. وَاتَّقُونِ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. O people of aql, O people of understanding, fear me. There is no blame on you. لَيْسَ عَلَيْكُمْ جُنَاحٌ. There is no blame on you if you seek the bounty of your Rabb during this journey. Meaning, if you want to shop around, you want to do some business while you're at Hajj, it's okay, do so. When you return from Arafah, stop at Muzdalifah and praise Allah at Mash'ar al-Haram. Praise Him as He has guided you, for before this you were of the people who had lost the right way. Then return from where the people return and seek Allah's forgiveness. Surely Allah is forgiving and merciful. When you have fulfilled your sacred duties, praise Allah as you used to praise your forefathers, or with deeper reverence. There are some who say, our Rabb, give us sustenance and abundance in this world. So when you're done your Hajj, you come from your Hajj, you've done the biggest ibadah, one of the biggest pillars of Islam. Not everybody gets to do it. But if you have been blessed to do so, when you come back from it, don't sit down and talk about the issues at Hajj. They were meant to happen. Don't talk about your ibadah, that you did this, you did that. No. Talk about who? Talk about Allah. Do dhikr of Allah. Do shukr of Allah. Increase in the dhikr of Allah after coming back from Hajj as well. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says there are some people who in regular days as well, their du'as focus is what? Oh Allah, give me this in dunya, give me a big car, give me a good spouse. This is great. You can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for anything. But 99% of the du'a is about dunya. And there is no share of akhirah in this du'a. And the same thing happens at Hajj time too, that people are so fixated on attaining dunya that they go to Hajj. Why? So that we can make du'a for something we are lacking in this dunya. By all means, make that du'a. But do not take away the share of akhirah from your du'a, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in these ayat. What is He saying? But there are those who say, our Rabb, give us the good life, both in this world and in the hereafter, and save us from the torment of the fire. There are some who say, only give us what is in this dunya. But there are some who say, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. These are the ones. أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا كَسَبُوا وَاللَّهُ سَرِيعُ الْحِسَابِ. These are the ones who will have a share of what they have earned, and Allah is swift in account. We need to really evaluate the du'as that we make. What percentage of my du'a is only for dunya, and what percentage of my du'a is for akhirah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us a beautiful thing here, an etiquette of dua. That when you ask me for dunya, don't forget to ask me for your share in akhirah as well, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this dua for us. Celebrate the praises of Allah during the appointed days. 11th, 12th, and 13th of Dhul Hajj. There is no sin if anyone hastens to leave Minna after 2 days, and there is no sin to stay there a day longer, provided he spends these days in piety. fear Allah and remember that you will surely be gathered before Him and amongst the people. Amongst the people, there is one whose speech fascinates you in this world. There are a lot of charismatic speakers here. There's a lot of people who can woo you by their words. What should you do? He may even call upon Allah to witness what in his heart. This person might be saying, Wallahi, Wallahi, Wallahi. They might be swearing by Allah's name, making you believe with their sweet talk. What should you do about those people? Yet he is your staunch opponent. وَهُوَ أَلَدُّ الْخِصَامِ. Yet he is the fiercest of opponents. And we see that. There are a lot of people who do the sweet talk of humanity, but they are staunch enemies of Islam. A lot of us were shocked. Wallahi, the situation in Gaza has revealed so many hypocrites to us. All this sweet talk of the West, where did they go? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words have always been true. وَهُوَ أَلَدُّ الْخِصَامِ. Do not fall prey to their sweet talk by making you believe that the Western way is the best way. No, it is not. They are your staunch enemies. And when he leaves you, he directs his efforts towards causing mischief in the land, destroying crops and cattle, meaning he talks about all equality and all of that, but he's the one creating mischief in the land. He's corrupting your generations, destroying crops and cattle. Whom he makes his witness does not he makes Allah his witness. Wallahu la yuhibbul fasad. When Allah is the one who does not like mischief. When it says to them, where it says to these very people, do not fear Allah. Stop doing whatever you're doing. Pharaoh gets curious and off to sin. He continues to do his sin. Hell will be the proper place for such a person, where is indeed an evil refuge. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ, and amongst the people there is one who would give away his life to seek the pleasure of Allah. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْرِي نَفْسَهُ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ رَءُوفٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. There is one who, when he is reminded of Allah, he increases in sin. And there is this other person who has dedicated his life, who has sold his soul to who? Who has given up his life for who? To seek the pleasure of Allah. And Allah is saying, how am I with them? Wallahu ra'ufun bil ibad. I am extremely affectionate and kind to my servants. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst these. Ya Rabbi Ya Rahman Ya Rahim, make us amongst these people whom you look towards with kindness and love. And to become this kind of person, what do you have to do? The next ayah clarifies it. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu. You want me to look at you with kindness? You want to give up your life for the sake of Allah? You want me to be pleased with you? Guess what you have to do? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu udkhulu fis silmi kaffa. Enter Islam completely and perfectly. There is no 50-50 Islam. There is no 50% dunya and 50% deen. No. There is no, we gotta take deen and dunya together. No. Your deen is your dunya and your dunya is your deen. When you enter Islam completely, that is when Allah is ar-ra'ufu bil ibad. And then he says, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ, and do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. Indeed, he is your staunch enemy. Highlight this ayah. This ayah is an absolute must for us to all know. There are lots of gems in this juz, alhamdulillah. And wallahi, each ayah requires a lot of thought, a lot of detail, but because of the time, I really have to rush through them. But inshallah ta'ala, we will dive deeply into them after Ramadan, inshallah ta'ala. If you falter after clear signs have come to you, meaning if you deviate from the deen, from Islam, after clear proofs have come to you, then know that Allah is exalted and is wise. He does not need you. Do they await? Are they waiting that Allah should come to them in the covers of clouds I mean, why are you not following Islam completely? What are you waiting for? Why are you being lazy? Why are you procrastinating? You know what you have to do. What's stopping you? Are you waiting for Allah to visit you in person? Are they waiting, but Allah should come to visit them in covers of clouds and the angels? And then the matter is then decided? Is that what they're waiting for? Ultimately, all matters will be presented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for decision. Ask the children of Israel, how many clear signs we have given them. Anyone who substitutes the favor of Allah, changes the revelations of Allah after it has come to him, should know that Allah is strict in retribution. ذُيِّنَ لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا. The life of this world is charming, has made beautiful to those who are unbelievers. And they mock at those who believe, but they forget that those who fear Allah will rank above them on the day of resurrection. Allah gives them sustenance without measure to whom He wants. Highlight this ayah again. This ayah is the answer to a lot of people who say that anybody who is an oppressor or a zalim, why do they have so much wealth? Is wealth a sign of a blessing of Allah? Is having power and might in this world, having a wonderful, glamorous life, a sign of the blessing of Allah? No, it's not. No, it is not. It is a test. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is answering these doubts that people who are who are doing oppression, who are extremely bad people, like extremely bad people, living the life without any consequences. You know, they're chilling, they're having the best of the best. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I've given them best of the best because they have nothing to share in akhirah. We have beautified for them who disbelieve. We have given them a lot, right? And they stay in this delusion, but they will have no share in akhirah. And they mock. They mock the believers. Oh, look at these Muslimin. They have nothing. You know? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, let them mock. On Yawm al-Qiyamah, what's going to happen? The believers that they're mocking, they're going to rank way above them. Way, way above them. وَاللَّهُ يَرْزُقُ مَن يَشَاءُ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. Allah gives provision, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the risk to whomever He pleases, without any account. Now this next ayah number 213. There is so much to be said about this ayah. And whenever I read this ayah, I get very angry with our Muslim community. And especially the organizations. Especially the people who are in charge of organizations, of the masajids. I feel like before anybody is given any authority or in any masjid or any organization, they should be made to read this ayah, understand it, and memorize it. And before every meeting, they should be reading this ayah, subhanAllah, as a reminder. Because again, we do so much ikhtilaf, we bicker, we fight, we dispute. And this ayah is a slap on our faces. Ayah number 213, highlight this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, كَانَ النَّاسُ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً. Mankind was one nation, having one religion. We're all one, with one deen of Allah. Later, فَبَعَثَ اللَّهُ النَّبِيِّينَ. Later, when people invented other religions, Allah appointed prophets as bearers of good news and warnings, and revealed to them the book with the true guidance to settle the matters of dispute between people. Why is the book revealed? Why is Quran revealed? To settle the disputes amongst the people. But the very people, the ayah says, the very people to whom the book was given, what did they start doing? They started disputes after the clear proofs had come to them because of rivalry between one another. Very important to understand. The people who are given the book to get rid of the disputes, now they're fighting. Now they're fighting with each other. They're disputing with each other after having clear signs, not because they're not understanding something. The dispute is not on, let's say, a matter of fiqh, let's say. Okay? The dispute is not what this ayah means or what this ayah doesn't know. What are they fighting? The Quran is saying that they're fighting because of rivalry between one another. I'm better than him. Why is this person given this post? I should be doing this. Or I told them to do this, but they never listened to me in this organization. Right? Or one person gets the control and then they don't give any room to anyone to improve the system. The rivalry amongst each other, the basic human desire to compete with each other in power dynamics, politics start. This is what this ayah is talking about. Not the ikhtilaf amongst the fiqh, not the ikhtilaf among educational ikhtilaf. No, the ikhtilaf of human nature. The ikhtilaf of who is better. I'm better than you, you're better than me. Why do you have this? Why don't I have this? I should be given this authority. This person should be taken away. And because of this, who do they end up damaging? They end up damaging the organizations. They end up damaging the work of deen. They end up damaging the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everywhere I go, there's politics everywhere. When we are given an authority in any place, in an organization or in a masjid, it is an amana from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a responsibility. We should not be promoting the organization. The promotion should be for the deen of Allah. The deen of Allah should be the priority, not the promotion of people and not the promotion of said organizations. The purpose, organizations are a vehicle, they are a tool. For what? To expand the deen of Allah, to strengthen the deen of Allah. But yet the organizations have become the root cause, the rot in the roots to weaken that plant. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala free us from this animosity in our hearts, free us from this hatred towards our Muslim brothers and sisters, and may we be able to work in harmony, and may we not do ikhtilaf on petty little things. Inshallah ta'ala. Allah has guided the believers by His will to the truth in those matters in which they had differences. Meaning the matters of ikhtilaf, they were already, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide us. When the matters of ikhtilaf that comes with deen, Allah guides whom He pleases towards the right way. Do you think that you will enter paradise without any trial? This ayah also needs to be highlighted. Again, I feel like this entire juz needs to be highlighted. SubhanAllah. Am hasibtum an tadkhulul jannah? Do you think you're just going to enter Jannah? You're just going to walk right into it just because you're a Muslim? Or you say you're a Muslim? There are tests to pass. There are mountains to climb. There are oceans to cross. Am hasibtum an tadkhulul jannah? Do you think that you will enter paradise without any trials, while you have known the examples of those who passed away before you? They were afflicted with suffering and adversity, and they were so violently shaken up. وَزُلْزِلُوا. They were violently shaken up by the trials. حَتَّى يَقُولَ Rasul, that even the Rasul said, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, and those who believed said amongst them, مَتَى نَصْرُ اللَّهِ. When is the help of Allah? When will the help of Allah come? Meaning people in the past were tried so much that even the Rasul, the messengers, would question when the help of Allah would come. Ala inna nasrullahi qareeb. Indeed, be aware, Allah's help is ever close. This world is the place of trials. And this ayah gives a little bit of like hope. It gives us not a little bit, a lot of hope, considering the circumstances that we are in today's time. Ta'ala, give our Muslim brothers and sisters who are suffering in Gaza, in Syria, in Yemen, anywhere in the world, may Allah grant them victory. May Allah make our Muslims victorious upon all the mushrikeen and all the oppressors who have hold on them. Allahumma ameen. We know, we believe that the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is qareeb. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Let's continue. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يسألونك ماذا ينفقون. Ya Rasulullah, they ask you what they should spend, how they should spend, where they should spend. I mean, these were the questions of the Sahaba to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that we have wealth, we have money, how should we spend it the most effective way? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ مَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّنْ خَيْرٍ فَلِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ. Say, whatever you spend with a good heart, give it to your parents, relatives, orphans, the helpless, and the travelers in need. Whatever good you do, وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ بِهِ عَلِيمٌ. Whatever good that you will do, Allah is indeed knowing of that good. He knows whatever good you do. Fighting has been made obligatory for you, much to your dislike. Meaning, obviously, nobody likes a war, nobody likes fighting. But it is quite possible that something which you do not like is good for you, and that something which you love is bad for you. Allah knows, and you do not know. يسألونك عن الشهر الحرام قتال فيه. They ask you about war in the sacred months. Tell them fighting in this month is a big offense. But to prevent from the path of Allah, to deny Him, to prevent and access to and expel His worshippers from Masjid al-Haram are more severe crimes in the sight of Allah. And mischief is worse than killing. As for the unbelievers, they will not cease fighting. They will not stop fighting until they succeed in turning you back from your religion. I mean, the purpose of the reason why these non-Muslims are fighting with you and they're so adamant, because they want to turn you away from Islam. If they can, if any of you turns back from his religion and dies as an unbeliever, his deeds will become void in this life and in the hereafter. Meaning, if you do end up following them and leave your religion, leave the deen of Islam, then you will die as an unbeliever. And your deeds will become void. They will become wasted in this life and the hereafter. He will be the inmate of the hellfire. Meaning, anyone who leaves Islam will be the inmate of hellfire, to live therein forever. إن الذين آمنوا والذين هاجروا وجاهدوا في سبيل الله أولئك يرجون رحمة الله والله غفور رحيم. Surely those who believed, migrated, and struggled in the paths of Allah, they are the ones who can hope for the mercy of Allah. Allah is forgiving and most merciful. They ask you about drinking and gambling. Tell them this is a great sin in both. There's great sin in both, although they may have some benefit for men, but the sin is greater than their benefit. They ask you what they should spend. Tell them what is beyond your needs. Meaning, what should we spend? How much should we spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What is the answer? Whatever is more than your need. This is a real question that we have to ask ourselves. What is excess in our lives? What is our need? We are living in luxuries. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, you want to spend in my way? Spend whatever is extra. Fulfill your need, and whatever is rest, give in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. كَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ لَكُمُ الْآيَاتِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Thus Allah makes His revelations clear to you, that you may reflect upon them, upon this world and the hereafter. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ. Tell them it is best to look for their welfare, and if you mix your affairs with theirs, they ask you about the orphans. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْيَتَامَى. And they ask you about the orphans. Tell them it is best to look for their welfare. And if you mix your affairs with theirs, meaning you become co-partners, then they are your brothers. Allah knows who means harm, and who means their welfare. If Allah wanted, He could be hard on you in this matter. Surely Allah is mighty wise. وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنْ. Now the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding marriage with Muslims and non-Muslims are coming. Do not marry mushrik women until they become believers. A believing slave woman is better than a free mushrik woman. Meaning, a believing woman, a mu'min woman who is lower in social status is way better than a mushrik woman who might be attractive to you. She may be attractive to you. Likewise, do not marry mushrik men until they become believers. A believing slave is better than a free mushrik, even though he may be more pleasing to you, financially, status-wise, beauty-wise, but don't marry them. These mushrikeen invite you to the hellfire, while Allah invites you towards paradise and forgiveness by His grace. He makes His revelations clear to mankind so that they may take heed, so that they may take lessons, so that they may understand. They ask you about menstruation. Tell them this is a discomfort. Therefore, keep away from the women. Do not have sexual intercourse during their menstrual periods, and do not approach them until they are clean again. When they have cleansed themselves, then you may approach them in the manner Allah has enjoined for you. Allah has advised you for. Surely Allah loves those who turn to Him in repentance, and loves those who keep themselves clean. Inna Allah yuhibbu tawwabina wa yuhibbul mutatahhirin. Your wives are a place of sowing of seed for you. So come to your land of cultivation, your place of cultivation, when you like. Take care of your future, meaning take care of them. Take care of your future and refrain from the displeasure of Allah. Bear in mind that you shall meet Him in the hereafter, and give good news to the believers. A lot of people, the non-Muslims, have quoted this ayah and try to turn Muslim women against their faith by saying, oh, look, Muslim men are given control over you. No, this ayah is not that. Before this ayah, what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the spouses? Hunna libas. You guys are libas for each other, right? What this means here, a man without a land was considered a nomad in that time. The land was the most precious thing. For a farmer, what is the most precious possession in his life? The land. A farmer in his land, what does he do? Does he treat his land badly? He tends the soil. He takes care of every little inch of that soil. He's concerned whether there's bugs in there. He's always caring for them, right? He's a caretaker of that land. And he sows the seeds in the land. And then the land, because the land is well taken care of, produces the crops. So this is the analogy of the relationship between husband and wife. The man is the caretaker of the wife, and in that sense, she's been compared to a land, and a man has been compared to a farmer who has to take care of every aspect of the land. And when he sows the seed for the future generation in the woman takes care. The woman produces the best children and the best progeny because she's well taken care of. Okay, so again, there's lots to be said about this ayah, but a lot of times this ayah is misrepresented. I find this ayah to be actually very beautiful and a lot of depth in the meaning, inshallah ta'ala. We will cover this in future. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَجْعَلُوا اللَّهَ عُرْضَةً لِأَيْمَانِكُمْ أَن تَبَرُّوا وَتَتَّقُوا وَتُصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Do not make Allah's name as an excuse in your oaths against your dealings justly. Behaving piously and making peace between people. Allah knows, and Allah hears and knows everything. Allah will not hold you accountable for what is inadvertent in your oaths, but He will hold you accountable for what you intended in your hearts. Allah is forgiving and forbearing. Those who renounce conjugal relationships with their wives on an oath because they said, oh, in their anger, they said, oh, I'm never going to touch you again. I swear by Allah, I'm never going to touch you again, or I'm never going to come near you. You know, in husband-wife fights, if a husband says a statement like that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is advising the husbands to not do that. They cannot deprive their wives of conjugal visits or a normal relationship because they were angry. Those who renounce conjugal relationships with their wives on oath have a limitation of 4 months, meaning you have a limitation of 4 months. After that, you have to resume back to normal life. If they reconcile and restore their relationship, surely Allah is forgiving and merciful. But if they decide to divorce, then they may do so. And Allah is ever watchful and knows everything. Divorced women must keep themselves waiting for 3 menstrual periods. It is not lawful for them to hide what Allah has created in their wombs. Meaning, if they get pregnant, if they find out that they're pregnant during the divorce period, they have to reveal it. They cannot conceal it. If they believe in Allah and the last day, in such cases, their husbands have a right to take them back in that period if they desire reconciliation. Women have rights similar to those exercised against them in an equitable manner. Although men have a status, a degree of responsibility above them, Allah is mighty wise. At-talaqu marratan. The pronouncement of revocable divorce is only allowed twice. Then she should be allowed to stay with honor or let go with kindness. It is not lawful for you to take anything back which you have given them except when both parties fear that they may not be able to follow the limits set by Allah. Then if you fear that they both will not be able to keep the limits of Allah, there is no blame if by mutual agreement the wife compensates the husband to obtain divorce. These are the limits set by Allah. Do not transgress them, and those who transgress the limits of Allah are the wrongdoers. So if a husband divorces his wife 3 times, it is not lawful for him to remarry her until after she has married another man. In case he divorces her, there is no blame on either of them if they reunite in marriage, provided they feel that they can keep the limits of Allah. These are the limits of Allah which He makes clear to the people of understanding. I mean, we don't have time to go into the details of the laws of divorce, but subhanAllah, every single scenario that we can think of, it has been covered in our deen. When you divorce women and they have reached the end of their waiting period, which is iddah, either allow them to stay with honor or let them go with kindness. Let them go with kindness. But you should not retain them to harm them or to take undue advantage in the matters of divorce. You will constantly see in these ayat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds men and women both to stay civil with each other, to be kind towards each other. Because divorces are ugly, right? Why? Because people forget any khair that they had ever received from their partners, and they are just so angry. That's why divorces happen. While in the moment of anger, Allah is saying, stay kind with each other. And especially for men. The command here is for men. That if you're going to return them back, meaning if they're going to stay in your marriage, you don't want to continue your divorce, if you're reconciling, then if you're taking them back, take them back with honor. Do not tease them about divorce again. And do not harm them. But if you are letting go of them, if you have decided to divorce them, then let go of them with kindness. Do not make their life difficult. And what is happening in their society? Complete opposite. Complete opposite. We become animals in the times of divorce. But you should not retain them to harm them or to take undue advantage. If anyone does that, he wrongs his own soul. Do not take Allah's revelation as a joke. Don't think Allah is joking here. This is no joke. وَلَا تَتَّخِذُوا آيَاتِ اللَّهِ هُزُوًا. The matters of divorce are no joke. Remember the favor of Allah upon you and the fact that He sent down the book and the wisdom for your guidance. Fear Allah and know that Allah has knowledge over everything. When you have divorced women and they have reached the end of the waiting period, do not prevent them from marrying their prospective husbands if they've come to an honorable agreement. This is enjoined on everyone amongst you who believes in Allah and the last day. This is more virtuous and chaste for you. Allah knows what you do not know. The mothers shall breastfeed their offspring for 2 whole years if the father wishes the breastfeeding to be completed, meaning after the divorce, right? And if there's a child that's been born, the mother will be breastfeeding, and the father will compensate for that breastfeeding time period. The reasonable cost of their maintenance and clothing will be the responsibility of the child's father. No one should be charged with more than they can afford. Neither a mother should be made to suffer on account of her child, nor a father on account of his child. When separation happens and then there's custody issues, what do a lot of people do? They're like, I'm going to make sure he doesn't see his father again. You're angry with him because he was your spouse, he was not nice to you, but why are you depriving the child from the father? And if the fathers win the case of the custody, they make sure the mother never sees the face of the child. Why are you punishing the child? And here Allah is saying, neither a mother should be made to suffer on account of her child, nor a father on account of his child. If only we understood the Quran. If only we followed the Quran, our society would be amazing. We have issues in our society because we are far away from the teachings of the Quran. The father's heirs are under the same obligation, but if with mutual agreement they both decide to wean the child, there is no blame on them. If you decide to have a foster mother for your offspring, there is no blame on you, provided you pay what you have promised to pay in an honorable manner. Fear Allah and be aware that Allah observes your actions. As for those of you who die and leave widows behind, let the widows abstain from marriage for 4 months and 10 days. When they have reached the end of this period, there is no blame on you for what they do for themselves in a decent manner. Allah is aware of what you do. There is no blame on you if you make a hint of marriage proposal during their waiting period, openly or keep it in your hearts. Allah knows that you will naturally cherish them in your hearts. However, be careful not to make any secret agreement except that you speak to them in an honorable manner. Meaning, don't start having secret chats with them. Do not confirm the marriage tie until the prescribed waiting period expires. You should know that Allah is aware of what is in your hearts, so fear Him. Bear in mind that Allah is forgiving and forbearing. There is no blame on you if you divorce women before the marriage is consummated or the dowry is settled. Pay them something, anything. Anyhow, the rich man according to his means and the poor according to his, a reasonable amount in all fairness. Meaning, if the marriage is dissolved before consummation happened, meaning before husband and wife had a relationship, and the dowry was not settled, right? Even then, if the relationship is dissolved, the marriage is not going to continue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the man to do what? That give a gift, pay them something, do it with ma'roof, right? And do it according to your status. Subhanallah al-Azim. And then, if you divorce them before the marriage is consummated, but after the fixation of a dowry, but you guys fixed a dowry, and you guys agreed upon a dowry, and you had but the marriage was not consummated, the husband and wife did not have a relationship, give them half of the dowry. Okay? Meaning, you still have to give half of the dowry that you asked her to give. Unless the woman wants to waive it. If the woman wants to waive it, halas, it's okay. Or a man in whose hand is the marriage ties agrees to forego. And if the man wants to give full of the dowry, he can give full of the dowry. But the minimum dowry that he has to give is half, at least. And right now, no relationship has been established with them. It's like very beginning, while they were in the talks, they had the nikah, the dowry was settled, but they never got to live together, and they're divorced. Even at this point, the man has to pay minimum half of the dowry. To forego and give full dowry is closer to piety. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, is it better for you if you give full dowry to her? If you give full mahar to her that was decided. Do not forget to show kindness to each other. Subhanallah. وَلَا تَنْسَوُا الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ. In these matters, people become evil. In these matters, good people, turn into really bad people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us at that time, وَلَا تَنْسَوُا الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. Do not forget to show kindness to each other. Surely Allah observes your actions. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, while these matters are happening, people also tend to forget salah. So he says, حَافِظُوا عَلَى الصَّلَوَاتِ وَالصَّلَاةِ الْوُسْطَى وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. Guard your salah. Protect your prayers. Especially the middle salah, which is Asr prayer. And stand up with true devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you are in danger, pray on foot or while riding. And when you are safe, remember Allah in the manner that He has taught you, which you did not know before. Those of you who die and leave widows should bequeath for them a year's maintenance without causing them to leave their homes. But if they leave the residence on their own, there is no blame on you for what they chose for themselves in a fair way. Allah is mighty and wise. Reasonable provisions must also be made for divorced women. This is an obligation upon those who fear Allah. حَقًّا عَلَى الْمُتَّقِينَ. That's how Allah makes His revelations clear to you so that you may understand. Have you reflected on the case of thousands of people who fled their homes for fear of death? Allah said to them, die. Then He gave them life again. Surely Allah is bountiful to mankind, but most of the people do not pay any thanks. O believers, fight in the path of Allah. Fight in the path of Allah without fear of death. And bear in mind that Allah hears and knows everything. من ذا الذي يقرض الله قرضا حسنا ويضاعفه له أضعافا كثيرا. Who will give a loan to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Who will loan to Allah a beautiful loan which Allah will increase manifold? What does that mean? Who will give in the way of Allah? Because when you give in the way of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes it as a loan that He will return. He will return to you in manifold. Highlight this ayah. It's a beautiful ayah. Have you not reflected on what the leaders of the children of Israel demanded from one of their prophets after the death of Musa alayhi salam? They said, appoint for us a king, and we will fight in the cause of Allah. The prophet replied, what if you refuse to fight when you're ordered to do so? They replied, how could we refuse to fight in the cause of Allah while we have been driven out from our homes and from our children? But when on their demand they were ordered to fight, they all refused except a few of them. Allah knows the wrongdoers. All talk and no walk. Oh, we will sacrifice our life for the sake of the deen. We'll do this, we'll do that. Yeah, but when the moment comes, we're all cowards. And that's exactly what Bani Israel did. The Prophet told them, وَقَالَ لَهُمْ, the Prophet told them, Allah has appointed Talut to be your king. They replied, how can he be our king when some of us are more deserving than he? Meaning Bani Israel had objections with everything. I wanted a king. Now they get a king. They're like, how can he be a king? He's not financially strong enough. His family is not strong. Besides, he's not rich. The Prophet said, Allah has chosen him to rule over you and blessed him with more knowledge and a bigger stature. Allah grants kingship to whom He pleases, and Allah is all sufficient for His creatures' needs and all-knowing. Furthermore, the Prophet told them, the sign of his appointment as a king is that there will come to you the chest in which there is tranquility from your Rabb, the residue of relics which the family of Musa and the family of Harun left behind, and that chest will be carried by the angels. Surely there is a design for you if you are true believers. When Talut marched forth with his army, he said, Allah will test you at a certain river. Anyone who will drink from its river shall cease to be my soldier. Meaning, you are thirsty, we're traveling to fight. Let me tell you the test that's about to come. The test is that there is going to be a river and we're not allowed to drink from it. If you will drink from it, you cannot be my soldier. Right? That was their test. Guess what happened? They drank from it because they have always been disobedient. So when Talut marched forth with his army, he said, Allah will test you at a certain river. Anyone who will drink from its water shall cease to be my soldier. And those who will not drink to quench their thirst with its water, except a sip or so from the hollow of their hands, shall fight on my side. They all drank from it in spite of its warning, except a few of them. When he and those who believed with him crossed the river, they said, oh, we have no power left this day against Jalut and his warriors. But the believers who knew they would meet Allah replied, it has often happened that a small group by the grace of Allah has vanquished a mighty army. Allah is with those who endure with patience. This part of the ayah. This part of the ayah. كَم مِّن فِئَةٍ قَلِيلَةٍ غَلَبَتْ فِئَةٍ كَثِيرَةً بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ مَعَ الصَّابِرِينَ. Highlight this ayah. This is what's happening right now. We have so much wealth in the Muslim world. Armies, tanks, weapons, everything. Yet we're all filling our stomachs with the water of the world. Just like Bani Israel did at the time of Talut. and we're not standing up for the haqq. And very qaleel, a small number of the people are fighting. And what did the followers of Talut said? That it has often happened that a small group, by the grace of Allah, has vanquished a mighty army, has defeated a mighty army. Allah is with those who endure with patience. People who fight for the sake of Allah are always small in number. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give victory to our Muslim brothers and sisters. When they advanced to face Jalut and his warriors, they prayed, Our Rabb, fill our hearts with steadfastness, make our steps firm, and help us. Give us victory against the unbelievers. This is a very beautiful dua taught to us. رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَنَا وَانصُرْنَا عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الْكَافِرِينَ. All of us should memorize this dua and make this dua in this time and day. They put the unbelievers to fight by the leave of Allah, and Dawood killed Jalut. Allah gave Dawood the kingdom and wisdom and taught him what else he pleased. If Allah had not been repelling one set of people by the might of others, there would indeed be disorder on earth. But Allah is gracious to all the worlds. These are the revelations of Allah. We recite them to you in truth. Surely you, O Muhammad, are one of our Rasuls. تلك آيات الله نتلوها عليك بالحق وإنك لمن المرسلين. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. This concludes our juz number 2 for today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this from us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us wisdom through us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us inculcate these verses in our heart, and may we follow each and everything in our lives, and may we be able to teach our children what we have learned. Ameen, sum ameen.